Decimal Fractions, Part 1. What are decimals? In this lesson, we'll try to explain to you just what decimals are and how to read decimals. Well, decimals are really fractions. They are really fractions. And here is a regular fraction that you're used to, 3/4, and it has a numerator of 3 and a denominator of 4. And if you recall, the denominator of a fraction, the bottom number of a fraction, tells us how many pieces there are in the whole. So in this whole, 1, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So that's what the bottom part of the fraction tells us, how many pieces in the whole. And the top part of the fraction tells us how many pieces we're interested in using. So in the fraction 3/4, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces in the whole, but we're interested in 3 of them. Well, decimals are like fractions. They do have a denominator, but the denominator is never written. The denominator is never written. This particular decimal fraction is 60 cents, if we would, because this is like our monetary system, 60 cents. And 60 cents is really equal to 60 100ths, because there are 100 pennies in a dollar. So there are 100 pieces in one whole dollar, and we're interested in 60 of them. So we're going to learn how then to read decimal fractions, realizing that they are fractions and they do have denominators, but the denominators are just not written down. Well, here on the top, let's just focus here. We just have a regular number. And we're used to these kinds of numbers. This is 4,628. 4,628. And we know that in the number 4,628, there are 8 ones. There are 8 in the ones place. This is the ones place. There are 2 in the tens place. This is the ones place. And we know there are 8 in the ones place, 2 in the tens place, because it's 20. There are 6 in the hundreds place. And there are 4 in the thousands place. So we have 4,628. So that's how we read normal numbers. Well, this is a decimal number, a decimal fraction. And you'll notice it has places also, but the places are to the right of the decimal sign. Now, unlike our whole numbers, the first number is not the ones place in decimals. The first number is the tens place. The second number is the hundredths place. The third number is in the thousandths place. So this is a little different than the whole numbers, which have a ones place and then a tens, a hundreds, and a thousands. Decimals, moving to the right of the decimal point, start with the tens place, the hundredths place, the thousands place. The next place would be the 10,000ths. Next place would be 100,000ths, and so on, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But we can say that decimal fractions are a fraction that has a denominator, a bottom part, that is not written and is some form of the number 10. So in the tens place, we have the number 10, the denominator 10, but it's not in the decimal, it's not written. This is the hundredths place. Well, 100 is really 10 times 10. So 100 is a form of the number 10. 1,000 is really 10 times 10 times 10. So this is a form of the denominator is a form of the number 10. 10,000 is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. So keep in mind that the decimal fraction, each of the place values as it moves to the right The first place is the tens, the second place hundreds and thousands, and we're going to go over that. And in fact, the way you would read this number, this decimal fraction, would be 427 thousandths. You just read the regular number, 427, and then you use the place value of the last place, 427 thousandths. So again, decimal fractions have a denominator, but the denominator is not written, and it is some form of the number 10. Well, then let's take a look at the decimal place values. We know that the first number to the right of the decimal point is called the tens place. We know the second place is the hundreds. Third place is the thousands. Fourth place is 10 thousandths. Fifth place is 100 thousandths. Sixth place is millionths. And we would rarely be dealing with decimals that are more than that. So the thing we need to remember then is our place values. 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, millions. And that each one of these numbers is really just a form of the number 10. Again, 100 is 10 times 10. 1,000 is 10 times 10 times 10. 10,000 is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. 100,000 is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, and so on. So again, they're all fractions. The denominator is some form of the number 10. Reading from the right to the left, tens place, hundreds place, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and so on. So let's take a look at a couple of numbers just for fun. Suppose we had this number. Well, we know we have two places. We know this is the tens. We know this is the hundredths place. So we read the number, 26, and we name it by the last place. And the second place in decimals is the hundredths. So this number is 26 hundredths. And it's always very easy to change decimals to fractions because you just read the number. 26 hundredths, well, 26 hundredths. Let's take a look at this number. Well, how many decimal places do we have? We have 1, 2, 3. We know the first decimal place is tens, hundreds, thousands. We read the number 375 and we name it by the last decimal place, which is thousands. This is 375 1,000ths. Again, when we are reading decimal numbers, you just read the regular number, 26, and you then name it, use the denominator of the last place value. In this case, 26 hundredths, because it's second place. Here, tens, hundreds, thousandths, 375 thousandths. That's how you read it. We'll do some practice exercises.